few weeks ago, I took a job on a fishing boat called Manta Ray. I had just lost my job as a marine biologist, and I thought I could reconnect with the ocean. The boat smelled like fish guts, and the salty breeze was thick in the air. The crew was tough. Men who didn't seem to care much for someone like me. That first night felt normal. I set up my fishing gear and watched the other guys joke around. The engine rumbled beneath me. As midnight approached, I heard the tapping from the hull. It made my heart race, but I tried to ignore it. It was probably just the boat moving with the waves. The tapping continued, steady and rhythmic. I glanced at the crew, but they didn't seem to notice. The second night, everything shifted. The shadows danced in the water, causing my nerves to spike. The tapping returned, louder this time. Felt like it was calling for my attention. I couldn't help but feel something was wrong. I remembered the other crew member who hadn't come back. His gear still sat untouched, an eerie reminder of something I didn't want to face. Nights went by, and anxiety gnawed at me. Another crew member vanished, leaving behind only his jacket. I couldn't shake the feeling that something unnatural was at play. I overheard whispers among the crew, hushed words that silenced when I approached. I found old carvings in the wooden planks, a mix of warnings that made my skin crawl. They hinted at dangers below, but they didn't make any sense. One early morning, as I stood by the edge of the boat, I let the chilly air hit my face. I wondered about the ocean. Was it just its nature haunting us? Or was there something worse lurking beneath? I felt like eyes were watching me just below the surface, and a chill crept up my spine. I thought about the crew, those who were gone and those still there. Would I be next? The thought haunted me. Then came the fourth night. A pull in the water caught my eye. I looked down, and it felt like something was reaching for me. I turned around, and to my horror, the crew was gone, vanished without a trace. Panic gripped me hard. The boat felt empty. The only sound left was that damn tapping. I ran to the cabin, but it felt like the ocean was closing in on me. My heart raced as fear enveloped me. I stumbled back onto the deck, my mind racing. I didn't know what to think or what to do. I could only feel the ocean pressing in, waiting for something. I don't know what happened next, but I remember the overwhelming fear. It was as if I was floating outside of reality. When I finally got off that boat, I felt like I escaped something that I still think about that night. I wonder what really happened and if the ocean is still angry. I can't shake the feeling that whatever it was is still out there, waiting for its next victim. The next day, I tried to settle back into some normalcy. The land felt foreign, and I couldn't help but glance at the ocean every chance I got. It was a clear blue, deceptively calm, and I wondered if it was hiding secrets beneath its surface. I needed to understand what had happened on that boat. I decided to visit the local docks. Maybe there were others who knew about the Manta Ray. The salty air filled my lungs as I approached a group of fishermen gathered around crates of freshly caught fish. They cracked jokes and shared stories, but the laughter felt hollow to me. I found a man who looked old enough to know the boat's history. His weathered face told tales of the sea, and I approached him cautiously. "Excuse me," I said, trying to mask my nervousness. "I'm looking for information on the crew of the Manta Ray. I work there." He raised an eyebrow, assessing me. "The Manta Ray?" he replied, scratching his beard. "That boat's got a magic about it, though not the good kind. People come and go, but some never come back." My stomach nodded at his words. "Why is that?" I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "They say the ocean takes what it wants. When the moon is full, the waters go wild. Fishermen whisper about strange things lurking below." My heart raced as he described sightings and mythological creatures. I didn't know what to think. Part of me wanted to laugh it off, but my experience haunted me. I glanced back at the ocean, darker than before, and chills ran down my spine. "Is it true?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Men vanish while out fishing?" He nodded gravely. "A few weeks back, 2 young crew members on that boat never came back." Panic rose again, a familiar feeling. I needed answers, but all I had were questions. I hurried back to my car, my mind racing. What if the ocean did take something from the crew? What happened to them? I couldn't shake the thought of their faces silently screaming for help beneath the water. That evening, I gathered my courage and returned to the docks. The Manta Ray still loomed there, a ghostly outline against the setting sun. I had to find out if anything was left behind, any clue to what happened to the crew. Bracing myself, I slipped onto the gangway, the familiar scent of fish and salt hitting me hard. I hesitated, then headed toward the cabin as I entered. A strange light glimmered in the corner of my eye. I turned to see a box left open, filled with personal belongings. There were jackets, some fishing gear, and a photo. I stepped closer, my heart pounding, and picked it up. It showed a group of men, but there was something off about it. 2 faces were scratched out. Just as I was about to turn it over, I heard the tapping again, louder and more insistent. I felt that familiar chill creep back up my spine. I froze, unable to make sense of it. My heart raced, and an unseen force gripped my shoulders. Then, a shadow loomed over me. I turned slowly, and everything went dark. I gasped as if surfacing from a nightmare. The darkness lifted, but my heart raced as I struggled to make sense of my surroundings. I was still inside the cabin of the Manta Ray, but now the atmosphere felt heavier, like a thick fog had fallen around me. The tapping was gone, but an ominous silence filled the space that I blinked, trying to focus. Then I noticed a figure just outside the window, barely illuminated by the dim light filtering through. My skin prickled. I leaned in closer, but the figure was gone. Had I imagined it? Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me in that eerie cabin. My gaze fell back to the photo still clutched in my hand. The faces of the men stared back at me, and I felt a wave of unease wash over me. I carefully turned it over. Pressed onto the back, in hastily scrawled handwriting, were names. One was familiar. Jake. I remembered him from my brief time aboard the Manta Ray. My heart sank as I connected the dots. He was one of the crew members that went missing. Below that was another name, Sam. The name made me shiver. He had been the one who panicked during the storm that night. I needed to get out of there. My legs felt heavy, but I forced myself to move, pocketing the photo. I stepped out onto the dock, the salt in the air stinging my lungs. The sun was gone now, and the moon cast an eerie glow over the water. As I moved toward my car, I heard a soft splash behind me. I turned, but saw nothing. Panic set in. I quickened my pace, but it felt like the water was calling me back. An unsettling thought gnawed at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever happened on the boat wasn't over. The air felt electric, charged with an energy I couldn't explain. I reached my car and fumbled for the keys. Just as I unlocked the door, the splash echoed again, clearer this time. I turned, heart pounding. A figure emerged from the water. Was it a trick of the light? My breath hitched as the figure broke the surface, dripping wet, eyes glinting like fragments of glass under the moonlight. Before I could react, it vanished back into the depths, leaving only ripples in its wake. I stumbled into my car, slamming the door shut. My hands shook as I turned the ignition. I was unnerved, but more than that, I felt compelled to go back. Who had I just seen? Was it truly a ghost of someone lost? That question burned in my mind as I drove, and the horizon of the ocean receded behind me. Yet it felt like it would forever be etched into my memory. I couldn't escape the feeling that whatever secrets the Manta Ray hid were calling to me. When I reached home, I couldn't shake the chill running down my spine. I needed answers, but what if the answers were more horrifying than the questions? I sat on my bed, staring at the photo. I wasn't alone in this. I decided then that I had to find Jake and Sam. I would go back to the docks tomorrow and dig deeper. Then, a sharp knock resounded from my window, echoing like a cannon, pulling me back to reality. I jumped, heart racing as I turned to the window. My mind was still spinning from everything that had happened. The knock came again, firm and insistent. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Maybe it was just a branch tapping against the glass. With hesitant steps, I approached the window, my pulse quickening. I peeked through the curtain, but no one was there. Just the dim light of the street lamp casting shadows on the sidewalk. My shoulders relaxed slightly, but a knot of unease still twisted in my stomach. I pulled the curtain shut and took a step back. I needed to focus. Tomorrow was a big day. I had to find out more about Jake and Sam, but that knock still echoed in my mind. What if someone was watching me? I shook my head, trying to dismiss the paranoia. I was letting my imagination run wild after everything that happened. The morning light streamed through the cracks of my blinds, and the heaviness of last night lingered. I forced myself to eat breakfast, but the food felt like lead in my stomach. I couldn't shake the dread as I drove back to the docks. Once I arrived, the day felt eerily still. I parked the car and stood there for a moment, surveying the area. The Manta Ray loomed like a ghost above the water, its presence as heavy as the previous night. I took a deep breath and stepped out, determined to face whatever lay ahead. Walking along the dock, I spotted a few fishermen unloading their catch. I hesitated, then approached them. They looked up, surprise flickering in their eyes. I cleared my throat, trying to push past the nervousness. "Have you heard anything about the crew of the Manta Ray?" I asked. One of the fishermen, a burly man with a weathered face, frowned. "They're gone. Just disappeared." His voice was laced with a combination of sadness and fear. I swallowed hard. "What happened?" "Rough waters. Some say they took a risk. Others think it was just bad luck. No one knows for sure," he said, glancing around, almost as if expecting something to emerge from the water. "Best not to dwell on it, girl. Sometimes it's better to leave things alone." I felt a chill creep up my spine at his warning. I couldn't just let it go. Jake and Sam mattered. Maybe they were in danger. What about the survivors? I pressed. He shook his head, his eyes darting to the sea. "Only one came back. Left in a hurry. Didn't say much." He hesitated before adding, "You should stay away from that boat." As those words hit me, a cold gust of wind swept past. I looked back at the Manta Ray, the feeling of being watched creeping in again. Suddenly, a voice broke through the silence, sharp and urgent. "You shouldn't be here." I turned, heart racing, but there was no one there, just the empty dock stretching back behind me. That was when I saw it. On the deck of the Manta Ray, a figure stood, silhouetted against the midday sun. I squinted, trying to make out their features, but they were shrouded in shadow. "Hey!" I shouted, but the figure didn't move. Something primal surged through me, urging me to run. I stumbled back, glancing between the boat and the fishermen, who were now watching me with concern. Then everything went dark. When I regained my senses, I was lying on the dock, the rough wood digging into my back. The fishermen were hovering over me, their faces a mix of concern and fear. "Are you okay?" one of them asked, his voice laced with urgency. I blinked away the blur, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. "I think so," I managed to stammer. The last thing I remembered was the figure on the Manta Ray, twisting into shadows as panic enveloped me. I sat up, breathing hard, scanning the boat. It was emptier now, the figure gone. "Did you see something?" The burly fisherman pressed, his eyes wide. I hesitated. "I thought I saw someone on the boat." His brow furrowed, and he shared a look with the other fishermen. "Nothing goes unnoticed on that boat, girl. People disappear, and shadows roam. You shouldn't have been near it." Their words sunk deep into my mind. Something dark lurked beneath the surface, and I needed to unravel it. I pushed myself to stand, though my legs trembled. "Where is the survivor?" I asked, desperate for answers. "Rumor has it he's holed up in that old bar at the end of the pier," one of the younger fishermen replied, glancing at the horizon as if expecting something ominous to rise from the sea. "But he doesn't talk much. Most steer clear." I had to go. Ignoring their warnings, I thanked them and started towards the bar. The salty wind whipped around me, stinging my cheeks. I felt like I was stepping into a world suspended between reality and nightmare, a world where danger could surface at any moment. The bar was dimly lit, filled with the smell of stale beer and old wood. I scanned the room, locking eyes with a man sitting alone in the corner. His hair was matted, and there was a haunted look in his eyes that sent waves of unease through me. I approached cautiously, setting my jaw. "Are you the survivor of the Manta Ray?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked up, and a flash of recognition crossed his face. "What do you want?" His voice was rough, like gravel underfoot. "I need to know what happened out there," I said, leaning in closer. "Please, I'm looking for Jake and Sam." His gaze shifted, flickering to the door and then back to my eyes. "You shouldn't be looking for them. It's not just the sea that takes people." His words were laced with despair. I felt chills crawl down my spine. "What do you mean?" He took a long swig from his drink, his hand shaking. "If they're gone for a reason. There are things in the depths that shouldn't be disturbed." Before I could ask more, a loud crash came from behind me, and I spun around, alarm pounding in my chest. The door swung open violently, and a figure stumbled in, someone draped in a wet coat, eyes wide with terror. "They found me," he shouted. "They're coming." My heart raced as the man from the Manta Ray began to rise. The very air felt charged with imminent threat. I looked back to the survivor. He was staring at the newcomer with a mix of horror and understanding. "What did he mean by found me?" I whispered, my voice barely audible over the commotion. But before he could answer, the lights flickered ominously, and the tension in the room thickened like heavy fog closing in. Then everything went black again. When the lights flickered back to life, chaos reigned in the bar. The newcomer was on the floor, his back pressed against the wall, eyes darting around like a cornered animal. The survivor grabbed my arm, urgency painting his features. "We need to get out of here." "What about him?" I glanced back at the terrified man, who was trembling and gasping for breath. "Forget him. They'll come for him first," he hissed. "We're in danger right now." My instincts kicked in, and I nodded, following him as he pushed through the crowd. People whispered in hushed tones, fear etched on their faces. I could sense something lurking just behind the thin veneer of normalcy. We burst through the bar door and stumbled into the cold night air. The salty breeze hit me like a slap, snapping me back to reality. I turned to the survivor, desperate for answers. "What's going on? Who's they?" He shook his head, a look of bitterness crossing his face. "You really want to know? There are things in the water that aren't meant for the surface. The Manta Ray, it's not just a boat. It's a trap." A shiver ran down my spine. "A trap? For what?" The survivor's expression darkened. "For people like you, people who go searching for answers. The more you investigate, the more they want to keep you." Before I could respond, a deep rumble shook the ground beneath us. I glanced towards the water, the waves crashing violently against the pier. A dark shadow was rising from the depths, silhouetted against the moonlight. Panic seized me. "Look, over there." I pointed toward the horizon, where the silhouette grew larger, taking on a form. It was hard to tell if it was a creature or something more sinister, but the aura of dread reached us both. The survivor's face drained of color. "It's coming. We have to go now." We started running, my heart racing. The sound of footsteps thundered behind us, and I spared a glance over my shoulder. The man from the bar had followed, stumbling and bleeding from an unseen injury. "Help me!" he screamed, but I could see the raw terror in his eyes. His fate was sealed. I turned just in time to see the survivor lurch toward me. "Keep moving. Don't look back." His voice was sharp, filled with urgency. But I hesitated. "What if we can't escape? Then we fight. Or we hide," he shouted. "Just don't let them find you." That moment of indecision cost us. A deafening roar erupted from the darkness, and a wave surged towards us. I felt the water spray against my skin, cold and alive. It was as if the sea itself was reaching for us. That's when I saw it. A massive, humanoid figure with shimmering scales burst from the ocean, rising like a nightmare made flesh. I gasped, frozen in fear. Its eyes seemed to glow with a malevolent hunger, a predator surveying its prey. "Run!" The survivor's shout jolted me, and I turned to flee. But as I did, I felt a pull at my very core, as if the sea was calling me back. I sprinted forward, heart racing, but the darkness behind me was hauntingly alive. I could feel their presence lurking, waiting for me to falter. I glanced back, fear tightening around me like a vice. What was chasing us, and could we ever truly escape? Just then, I stumbled over something on the ground. My hand touched something slick and wet. I looked down, and my heart stopped. It was a piece of torn fabric, stained a deep crimson. I held it up, breaths coming in quick gasps. The survivor's eyes widened. That's not just a warning, he whispered, voice trembling. It's proof of what they can do. Fear ignited in me, propelling me forward as the sounds of the night intensified. We were out of time, and I was beginning to realize that the discovery I had set out for might be worse than I had imagined. I pulled my gaze away from the blood-stained fabric, trying to push the vision of its source from my mind. What do we do? I gasped, glancing over my shoulder. The survivor was already moving, urgency etched into his features. Keep running, he yelled, his breath coming fast. We need cover. The town was a maze of alleyways and streets, but my instincts took over, steering me to a narrow passageway between two buildings. I followed him, adrenaline fueling each step. The sounds of chaos from the bar faded, but the haunting roar from the water cracked through the darkness, echoing in my ears. Once inside the alley, we pressed ourselves against the cool wall, breathing heavily. The survivor leaned in, his face close. Listen, we need to find a way to hide. We can't lead them back to the others. I nodded, the fear bubbling inside threatening to overflow. Who are they? What do they want? Each question felt heavier than the last that he shook his head, brow furrowed. I don't know exactly, but they're drawn to fear. Like bloodhounds, they'll sniff us out if we show too much. Just then, a distant sound caused us to freeze. It was a low hum, almost like a chant, rising and falling. It sent chills creeping up my spine. The survivor's eyes were wide, realization dawning. They're looking for us, he whispered. The hum grew louder, vibrating in my chest. The air felt electric, like the world around us was changing, bending under the weight of something supernatural. I glanced around the alley, desperate for an escape route. We were cornered. Back there, I pointed toward a half-open door at the end of the alley. It might lead to the next street. Let us go, he urged, darting forward. We slipped through the door, and it creaked ominously as it closed behind us. The room was dark, filled with old crates and the faint smell of fish. My pulse quickened, and I felt an overwhelming pulse of dread. We need to stay quiet, the survivor warned, but it was drowned out by the ever-growing chant outside as my eyes adjusted to the dark. I noticed something unusual on the floor. A series of small, wet footprints led deeper into the room. They were jagged and unnatural. I swallowed hard, a wave of unease washing over me. Do you see that? I whispered, pointing at the prints. He leaned closer. What the hell is that? Are there more? My voice wavered. As my words hung in the air, a loud crash interrupted us. The door we had entered suddenly burst open, splintering off its hinges. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. The figure from the ocean loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the outside light. It's them, the survivor shouted, pushing me aside as he moved to block the doorway. I wanted to scream, to run, but frozen in fear, I could only watch. Run, he yelled again. Get out while you can. That was all it took. The urgency propelled me toward a small window to my left. I smashed it with my fist, shards of glass scattering as I climbed through. I landed hard on the cold ground outside, gasping for air, but the fear of what waited behind me fueled my flight. As I dashed away, a chill crept down my spine. I heard the roar again, so close it felt like it was inside my head. I realized with a terrible clarity that I hadn't just stumbled upon something terrifying. I had become bait in a hunt far older and darker than I could comprehend. That was when I realized I wasn't alone. Someone else was running beside me, and this time I didn't have to look to know it was not the survivor. I didn't need to look to know who was beside me. The footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoed in time with my own. My blood ran cold as I remembered the figure at the door. The creature had followed me. I darted into another alley, hoping to lose it. The dim lights flickered above me, casting strange shadows that twisted and warped. I glanced back, heart pounding, and saw it was still there, lurking just out of reach, moving with an unnatural grace. My flight instincts kicked in stronger than ever, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was running toward something worse. My breath came in ragged gasps. I needed a place to hide. There had to be somewhere I could get away. I veered left down another narrow passage, praying for an exit. The alley opened into a small courtyard. A rusty dumpster covered in seaweed caught my eye. I sprinted toward it, ducking behind the grimy metal. The chanting faded, replaced by the sound of the creature's pacing. It was close. I could see snippets of its shadow through the gaps in the dumpster. I held my breath, trying to control my frantic thoughts. What was I supposed to do? Then I noticed something. A light flickered softly in the distance, just beyond the courtyard. Instinctively, I felt drawn to it. Not wanting to stay trapped in my hiding spot, I crept slowly, mindful of every sound I made. As I crawled out from behind the dumpster, I dared another glance around the courtyard. The creature was nowhere in sight. I took a step toward the light, which grew brighter as I approached. My heart raced with the possibility of safety. I moved cautiously, glancing back as my mind filled with dread. Then, I saw it in the center of the courtyard stood a well, old and weathered. The light emanated from within, pulsing as if it had a life of its own. I felt an irresistible urge to draw closer. Something tugged at my gut, warning me, but my curiosity overwhelmed my fear. I peered over the crumbling stone of the well. The light flickered erratically, illuminating something deep within. My stomach twisted as I leaned farther down. I had to know. That was when I saw it, treasures entangled in seaweed, glistening with moisture. But as I looked closer, I realized they weren't trinkets at all. It was a collection of eyes, wide and unblinking, staring back at me. Panic surged through me. I stumbled backward, knocking into the stone wall behind me with a thud. I turned, ready to make my escape, but the chant had begun again, now right next to me. I froze. I was trapped in the courtyard with no way out. A powerful rush of panic coursed through my body as I felt heavy breathing right at my back. That's when I understood. The creature had come closer, drawn by my curiosity. There was no escape. Suddenly, everything went dark. The light faded, swallowed by the abyss. I frantically looked around for any sign of the creature, but the world around me twisted and blurred, pulling me deeper into the shadows. All that was left was that awful chant, echoing in my mind as I slipped into the unknown. When the darkness swallowed me, it felt as if I had crossed into another realm. My senses dulled, but the chant echoed fiercely, a relentless reminder of my predicament. I was lost, suspended between fear and the unknown. I didn't know how long I floated in that void, but the feeling of being watched never left me. Finally, a sliver of light emerged. It was hesitant, flickering as if it too was unsure about this place. I reached for it, instinctually wanting to feel something solid. As the light grew, I realized I wasn't alone. A figure was standing several feet away, partially cloaked in shadow. "Help me!" I shouted, my voice cracking. As my words echoed back, fear crept in again. The figure didn't respond. Instead, I caught a glimpse of its face, pale and distorted, with wide, unblinking eyes, those same eyes I had seen in the well, that got me moving. I stumbled back, searching for anywhere to run. The courtyard had morphed around me. The walls seemed to stretch and contract like a living thing. Panic clawed at my throat as I turned to look back at the creature. But the spot where it had stood was empty now. The chant faded, replaced by something else, a soft whisper, almost like the wind carrying something too light to hear clearly. My chest tightened, flooding my mind with dread. That soft voice felt familiar, teasing the edges of my memory. I pushed deeper into the light, desperate to escape whatever nightmare I had stumbled into. The shadows clung to me, threatening to pull me back. I stumbled upon a path overgrown with weeds. A faint trail led further into the unknown, and against every instinct, I ventured forward. There had to be an answer somewhere, a way out. The path twisted, the trees beside me towering like sentinels. They whispered secrets, their leaves rustling like voices teasing me. Turn back, they seemed to say. But I pressed on, ignoring their warnings. I came upon an opening in the grove, a small clearing engulfed in an eerie shimmer. In the middle lay a strange object, half buried in the earth. It shimmered like water. That's when I saw it. A mirror, cracked and weathered, reflecting not my face but a multitude of terrible visions. Each fragment caught snippets of memory, of people I had lost and places I wished to forget. I felt a pull, like gravity toward the glass. Before I could stop myself, I reached out to touch it. The moment my fingers brushed against the cold surface, I was hit with a rush of voices, laughter, cries, and the sound of waves crashing. I recoiled, my heart racing. The mirror spoke, somehow drawing me in with promises I shouldn't trust. Suddenly, the brightness around me dimmed. The shadows moved closer, growing in strength. The creature was back, its presence suffocating. I turned to run but tripped over tangled roots. My mind raced. What if I couldn't escape again? What if I was trapped here forever? Just then, I spotted movement at the edge of the clearing. A shadow was darting between the trees, closer and closer. My breath caught in my throat. I had to know, what was it? I needed to know what I was up against. But as I lifted my gaze, the creature lunged at me from the shadows, and I was left with only one thought. I had to survive. I jolted upright, gasping for air as the chilling air enveloped my body. My heart hammered against my ribs as I turned, ready to face whatever malevolent force was pursuing me. To my surprise, I found myself back in the cramped cabin of the Manta Ray, the undulating sound of the waves a haunting echo against the hull. Everything felt surreal. The tapping echoed again, almost leering at me like some ancient summons. I sprang to my feet, searching for an escape. As I stumbled towards the door, the temperature dropped, a frost creeping into my bones. I could hear a low, guttural growl emanating from somewhere below the boat, as if the creature's rage surged with the heartbeat of the ocean itself. No, 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 I muttered, racing back to the cabin's exit. I pushed the door open, bracing myself against the darkness that loomed beyond. The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow on the rolling waves, shimmering like liquid silver. My instincts screamed for me to run, to escape this cursed vessel. And as I stepped onto the deck, I saw it, an expansive sea stretching out before me. Tranquil yet ominous, I bolted toward the edge of the boat, my pulse racing. I had to choose, would I plunge into the depths or fight the shadows that chased me? The creature's growl echoed around me like a demonic siren song, a reminder of the lives it had claimed. As I teetered on the brink, lost in turmoil, I felt a tug at my heart. It was like the water itself was calling me home. A sudden crash drew my attention back to the cabin as the tapping grew frantic, a sound of desperate agony. I couldn't look back, yet I felt anchored, pulled between the dark and the light. Then, perhaps by some twist of fate, I recalled the photo I had pocketed. Jake and Sam's faces flashed through my mind, a reminder of the lives intertwined with this horrifying mess. They were lost, but they were gone for a reason, just as the survivor had warned. If I left now, maybe I would escape, but Jake and Sam would forever be trapped in this cursed cycle. Taking a deep breath, I turned back to the cabin, racing inside. I felt an overwhelming force push against me, trying to stop me. I snatched the photo from my pocket, needing to confront the truth, but nothing could prepare me for what I was about to uncover. The cabin felt surreal, shadows stretching in on themselves as I approached the shadows of both men in the photograph. I glanced at their faces and heard whispers, faint yet filled with urgency. They weren't just maimed memories. They were energies of life and loss, pleading with me to remember who they were. "Help us," I whispered, my voice cracking, the weight of my guilt heavy in the air. Suddenly, the room darkened again, and a creeping chill suffocated me. The tapping intensified, now a cacophony surrounding me. I slammed my eyes shut, desperate to gather strength against the terror looming behind me. If I could find a way to break this cycle, to give their lost souls freedom, perhaps I could save myself, too. But how? The shadows pressed in, whispering my fears as if they thrived on my despair. I opened my eyes to find the room spinning. The walls pulsed with dark energy, and a figure formed amidst the crushing shadows. The creature, now towering, adorned in shimmering scales. Its eyes glinted like shattered glass, focused directly on me. "Feed us," it hissed, its voice an ethereal blend of the lost and the damned. "Give us a reason to let you go." As a surge of understanding cut through my panic, an idea struck me. "You want fear?" I shouted defiantly. "Face your own." With every ounce of courage, I pointed at the creature. "You thrive on our fear. But I refuse. I want to be your pawn." In that moment, I felt something shift. The shadows recoiled as if stung. Jake and Sam's faces burst to the forefront of my mind as I reached out to them, willing them to fight. "You're not lost, not yet," I cried, hoping to channel their lingering essence. The creature paused, its gaze wavering. I pressed on, pouring my heart out, willing them to break free. The tapping persisted, but the growl faltered, and for a split second, I thought I could see a flicker of light behind the creature's eyes as the tension mounted. The shadows around us intertwined, pulling you deeper into the world I once knew. It felt like we were on the brink of unraveling. My heart raced as I faced what lurked beneath. Would this be the moment when light overwhelmed the darkness? Or would I finally succumb to its call? And just like that, amidst the chaos, the boat trembled. I could feel the water dancing beneath, the rise and fall echoing the pulse of life itself. For the briefest moment, terror and relief collided, and I realized that perhaps, just perhaps, there was hope. Then silence enveloped me. I didn't wait to hear the outcome. I pushed forward, feeling the energy pulse through me. My connection to my comrades shone brightly, and I seized the moment to leap into the shadows. I felt stunning warmth, like the embrace of cherished memories, pulling me from the abyss. The creature's roar faded behind me as I plunged deep into the swirling darkness. I fought through the haze, desperate for clarity. The world twisted around me, the shadows rising and falling as I surged through the depths. Suddenly, I burst up, gasping for air. Blinking against the piercing light, I collapsed on the beach, drenched yet breathing. Surrounding me was the vast ocean, calm and unwavering, a world seemingly untouched by chaos. I swallowed the saltwater air, heart racing as memories of the cabin faded into whispers as I looked back at the ocean stretching interminably before me. I could sense it. The questions still lingered. Jake, Sam, and the creature, they remained entwined with me. I might have escaped the Manta Ray, but the haunting wasn't over. Would they ever be free? Would another vessel carry the weight of lost souls tethered to the sea? There were answers still out there, swirling like the water just beyond my reach. I lay on the sand, reflecting on the pull of the tide and the whispered memories echoing beneath the surface. The ocean had given me a chance, but what would it demand in return?